Australian rugby has been in some real strife in terms of experience, guys, over the last couple of years around that Rugby World Cup and the Eddie Jones fiasco and everything that went with that, and not having certain guys who we all know that weren't there at that Rugby World Cup, perhaps that should have been. That's when you ask a question, and we'll look at our Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centre's turning point of the weekend. A guy like James O'Connor, who, look, I know it's only a kick to win a game in Super Rugby Pacific mid-season, but James O'Connor, yes, maybe it's a stretch to say he'll play at the next Rugby World Cup for Australia, but you look at a one-off kind of year like this for Australian rugby and the impact that he's had already at the Crusaders. You talk about a young player like Taha Kemara, we know the issues he had. James O'Connor, let's remember, had similar expectations, pressure, hype on him when he was a young player and he started out for the Wallabies. And I feel like his career arc has him at a point now where he has so much to offer. We're seeing that not just with the Crusaders, but I think he's still got a lot, Jeff, to offer Australian rugby.
Oh, massively. Couldn't agree with you more, Jeff. And the reason being was because I think exactly that. He's had quite a challenging career in terms of, I suppose, peaks and troughs. But the big thing now is there's no pressure on him as such. He's really comfortable in his own skin. He understands who he is and what he's about as a person. And I think that's allowing him to execute under pressure more often than not. And I don't think you can underestimate, if you look at 2011, you look at 2015, both those All Black sides had some senior statesmen that basically were in there to bring the edge during the week. And whether he can make the 23 or not, it doesn't really matter. I just think it would be a no-brainer. And being a bit short-sighted if he wasn't included in the initial squad, at least to see what he can contribute and what he can control. And let's not forget, Joe Smith's not hanging around after this, so it's all or nothing for him as well. So the World Cup's not such a big focus. I think this year is massive for Australian rugby, and a player like James, just the way he is and the way he can step up and deliver in the pressure situation. And then if we go back to the Burslow, man, he'll be grabbing a lot of intel from the Crusaders and the way New Zealanders play and the way they think about the game. And obviously Joe Smith has a lot of that knowledge as well. And obviously I think the Aussie commentators, Morgan Turanui and a couple of others, had come out and said, look, he's really knocking on the door with these performances. But I think on the weekend that solidified it for me. And that was a big moment. And it wasn't just the final kick. He played some great some great plays in and around putting them in that position in the 15 minutes he got.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that, Jip. And I think, all the things that you touched on are spot on. And one thing that I've really enjoyed with James is the fact that, Taha Kemara, he's been really, really good around his growth. Always been able to talk to him in terms of what he needs and being able to help him. And you look at James, well, he's only spoken positively around Taha and what he brings to the squad and what his role and being able to help the team with when he comes off the bench. Because if you really look at Australian rugby behind Lola Seo, there's not really a lot of, tens that are very, very experienced on the international stage. You've got Liner, you've got Edmund, you've got Donaldson as well, who's been in and around there and went to that last World Cup. But if you're talking around guys with experience and coming off the bench and what he's doing, it's a great tool I think have to be able to have a guy like James O'Connor in that squad. And he actually can cover multiple positions, you know what I mean? So if we do look at probably the last World Cup, we did talk around that they didn't take guys like Bernard Foley, they didn't take, older stadiums to be able to take them like Quade Cooper at the time, how much they would have enjoyed having that kind of experience in that World Cup, let alone in a rugby championship, and then coming up to the British and Irish Lions series, which you're probably going to need as much experience as you can in that environment. I think it's a no-brainer.
A lot of people are asking when James O'Connor was announced in that squad, what's going on here? Why is he going to the Crusaders? What's happening? But like you pointed out, Jim, like you alluded to, the guy has made such a difference with a young man like Taha Kemara, and credit to the Crusaders. Congratulations to them. They saw what was in front of them with a guy like James O'Connor. They had the vision and the guts to select him for the squad. So congratulations to them, and it's reaping the reward. So that is our turning point. Ashley Martin Medical Hair Centre. It is the turning point for many young men around the country. See Ashley and Martin.